Hey there, this is James Wilson with MTB Strength Training Systems and BikeJames.com, and in this video I want to go over some in-season training strategies for your strength training program. Now, strength training, like I mentioned in my first video on your in-season cardio training, is really the cornerstone of your in-season cardio and the key to helping you ride strong all season long. And the reason for that is because strength is literally your ability to produce tension. Okay, your muscles are dumb. They don't know how to do anything but create tension, contract, and relax. And your brain tells them how to do that. So your brain basically controls all these dumb muscles to, tell some to contract, others to relax, others to, contract and stabilize. So the more efficiently it can do that, the stronger you are. So at the heart of it, strength is really how efficiently can you produce tension within a given movement. Now, strength and endurance are not separate things. Endurance is really strength endurance. It's your ability to produce strength over and over and over again. Now, a lot of times we don't think about it as strength, 'cause especially when you're sitting down and spinning, you're not thinking of that as strength, but it is strength. Basically, any amount of tension that your body has to create is strength. So your body's creating strength even if it's a low level of strength over and over and over again. And so the better that it can do that, the better that it can endure. So those two things are intimately tied, because strength is your ability to produce tension and endurance is your ability to fuel that tension and allow your body to keep creating it over and over and over again. So strength helps support that in a very important way. And what it basically boils down to is high tension cardio. And this is a term that I've coined to help differentiate between the two types of cardio efforts that you have on your bike. And for me, the line gets drawn when we get up out of the seat. Now, when we're sitting down in the saddle, the seat's able to support, the seat post and seat supports a lot of our weight. So our core and the rest of our body doesn't have to produce as much tension to hold us up. As soon as we stand up, we have to start producing more tension in the core and other muscles just to hold us up, and that dramatically changes the tension demands of those two things. So there's a line where we go from kind of a low tension effort to a high tension effort. In fact, this is one of the reasons that road cyclists like to keep their spins at like 90 to 100 some odd RPM, because once they start to drop much below 80 RPM, it becomes more about muscular endurance and strength endurance rather than just the aerobic system's ability to fuel the effort. So there is definitely a cutoff point where it starts to become a little bit more about strength than it does about just pure aerobic cardio fitness. And so for us as mountain bikers, that's where this high tension stuff comes in, because this is the stuff that really separates mountain biking from other cycling disciplines, especially road riding. And, it's all those standing pedaling efforts and also all of our technical skill efforts that we have. Those two things fall on the high tension side. So again, standing up to sprint, standing up to grind out a slow technical climb, and also again, like I mentioned, your technical skills, standing up to float through a rock garden, to corner, to manual or jump or something like that. All of those things fall on the high tension side. And so that's why the high tension cardio is so important for us. Now, to explain why high tension cardio is important and how strength kind of helps fuel that and helps make it more efficient, I've got this little chart set up, so hopefully this will make things a little more clear. Now, this is Metabolic. Metabolic is your metabolic bank account. This is basically how much energy you have in your metabolic system to your bank account to fuel your efforts. When you start moving, you go to Metabolic and you say, I've got a project going on, I need to fund it. I need to pull some money out that I've stored away to help fund this project. So Metabolic says, yeah, no problem, here you go. So if it's a low level effort, say like, sitting and spinning, it's a low tension effort, then you're not drawing a lot of money from Metabolic to fuel that tension. So you can fuel that for a lot longer than you can the high tension effort. So let me show you how this breaks down. This graph right here represents somebody who has achieved the strength goals that I'll talk about here in a second. So they have a very good high tension production ability. They're very efficient with it, and they can do it well. This is someone who has not achieved those strength goals. So their 100% tension effort is not as high as this guy's here. And so he's not met those strength goals. Now, here's how this affects you. When you're on the trail, okay, you got basically three types of pedaling efforts. You've got your, low tension cardio, again, sitting and spinning. There's just not a lot of tension in the body to do that. It really just boils down to the aerobic system's ability to keep up with the fuel demands there. You've got your moderate tension efforts. Again, this is where things are starting to get a little harder here. You know, some standing efforts, you know, just kind of standing up and flowing through some single track or something like that. And then finally, you've got your high tension efforts. Now, these are those, again, those super high tension, the slow grinding climbs, you know, absorbing trail impacts, you know, hard sprints, you know, just, you know, if you think about those hardest efforts that you lay down, and you know, that's where you're getting into this area here. So as you can see, the higher your strength levels are, kind of the more you're able to spread out your spending. You see, as you get into this, into the high tension area here, you're not, you know, you're pretty efficient with your spending. You're not spending, you know, going to Metabolic and asking for a whole bunch more money. Because when you get up into these higher level efforts here, the more tension you're producing, the more you got to go to Metabolic and say, man, I need some funds to fuel this tension. Tension is what the metabolism is fueling, all right? So as the tension levels get higher, you have to draw more and more from Metabolic. If you're stronger though, you're more efficient with your spending. So if you're over here though, you don't have those strength levels, okay? There's your low level, here's your moderate level efforts, and then finally, you've got your high tension efforts. Now you can see, no one, you know, it's the same exact level of tension being produced. But because the strength levels here are lower, this represents a greater percentage of your 100% max, which means that you have to go to Metabolic and ask for more money than this guy does. This guy doesn't get to this range here. He just gets up to here. This guy here blows up into this spending range much quicker. So what happens though is all of these efforts are being fueled from Metabank's funds, okay? You don't have different high tension and low tension funds. It's all coming from the same place. So the more you start to go into this high tension and you're drawing from Metabolic, eventually you go and you're like, man, we got to stand up and give it another sprint up this hill. And Metabolic says, man, you don't have the funds for that. We can't fuel that. That's when you start to bonk a little bit. You're starting to feel like, man, I can't stand up or, you know, give it anymore. I can sit down and keep going. You know, that's when we start dropping down into granny gear and we can just keep those legs going. You know, we can fuel that, but eventually you're even going to start running into problems getting funds to fuel those low level efforts too. And it's not because these low level efforts you need to work on, it's because you need to work on getting better at fueling your tension. You need to get stronger, because when you go into these high tension efforts, you're just so inefficient with your metabolic spending that you're blowing through your funds much faster than the stronger rider will. And so towards the end of the ride, as you start to feel fatigued from all of these high tension efforts, the residual fatigue starts to get into all of the stuff that you do on the trail. But a lot of riders misinterpret that to think that, oh my, you know, towards the end of the ride, they're sitting and pedaling and they're just dog tired and they're like, I got to work on my seated pedaling. I got to get stronger with this. It's not the seated pedaling that's the problem. It's all those high tension efforts that you had that wore you out, and eventually it started to affect your fitness levels for those other efforts as well. So that's why it's important that you keep your strength levels up, because you're not going to be going to Metabolic and asking for as much funds at one time to fuel your tension as a weaker rider will, which means you're going to be able to spread those funds out more efficiently over the course of the ride. So what do you do with your strength training program? It really boils down to, where are you at right here? If you've achieved the strength goals that I look for in riders, which for men is basically a 1.5 to 2 times body weight deadlift and 5 pull-ups, and for women is a 1 to 1.5 times body weight deadlift and 3 chin-ups. If you've achieved those strength goals, it means that you've got a good overall level of tension production. Then you're here. Then you need to maintain that, okay? You're going to lose some over the course of the season, but you want to maintain that as best you can, because you don't want to start having your high tension cardio start to erode and that start to affect your other areas of cardio. So a good training strategy for that is a simple, 3 sets of 3 reps with just the basic compound lifts, focusing on deadlift, front squat, shoulder press, chin ups, I like farmer's walks, you know, holding heavy dumbbells or kettlebells, just standing nice and tall and walking with them, and throwing in something like the Turkish get-up that'll work kind of some other, you know, movement patterns as well. But, you know, those 6 basic exercises right there can and should make up the bulk of your training program during the riding season, because you don't have a lot of time and energy to devote to strength training. So you need to make sure that what you do gives you the biggest bang for the buck, and those exercises do it. So again, a simple 3 sets of 3 strategy with those exercises twice a week will do, you know, wonders for helping you maintain your strength levels and help make sure that you're fresh enough to be able to get out on the trail and ride, not beat yourself up. However, if you're in this category here, excuse me there, then you can actually look to try to raise this during the season. Okay, if you haven't met these strength goals, then you can probably get stronger during the riding season. So what I like to do here is still focus on those same basic exercises, because we run into the same problem of, you know, time and energy constraints. But instead of just doing 3 sets of 3 trying to maintain, what I like to do is a 5-3-2 weight ladder. So you'll do a set of 5, add some weight, do a set of 3, add some weight, and then do a set of 2. And each week you want to try to increase the weight that you're using for each one of those reps a little bit, and just, you know, gradually increase the load. I do recommend that you do 3 weeks in a row of trying to increase the weight each week, and then every 4th week cut back the weight and the reps, and just have like a lighter deloading week. You still want to train, but you don't want to train super hard. And then again, go to another 3 weeks of trying to really work hard and increase the weight each week before backing off. That'll help make sure that you don't burn out and you know, try to do too much at once. But so that's basically what I would do, what I have riders do during the riding season. You're either trying to maintain or you're trying to improve if you haven't gotten to those strength levels yet, because you can definitely affect your high tension cardio by improving your strength levels. So it's not unusual for riders who take this strategy to increase their strength levels and feel literally stronger at the end of the season than they did at the beginning of the season, which really helps avoid that late season slump. So that's it. That's some basic strategies for strength training. Keep an eye out for the next lesson on mobility, and where I'll explain why mobility is really the foundation for all of this stuff. That if you lose your ability to move, you're going to start to lose your strength levels, and like I just explained, as you start to lose your strength levels, your cardio is going to start to erode as well. So really it boils down to how well you move, and so I'll explain why that's so important, how it affects the other things, and then again give you some basic strategies you can use during the season to help you avoid those things. So once again, this has been James Wilson with MTB Strength Training Systems. You can check me out on the web at bikejames.com. If you got any questions or comments about this, feel free to post it on my blog. I'll get to it as soon as I can, and I'll talk to you next time.